And mental health is something that we don't talk about enough. In the black community, well, we're massively overrepresented in the mental health institutions, even more so than in the prisons. And again, these are questions we have to ask. Well, why?
But once you get a control and an understanding of who you are, no one can use you against you. No one can ever use your mental illness against you. You've already spoke about it, so what you got?
The biggest point in life to resolve mental health is like giving a fuck about a person.
Where did you get the courage? I got the courage. The 2 words. I care.
It's Chill Will Radio, where connections will be made, advice will be given, jokes will be told, and things will get real. My name is Willis Cooks, and I'm your host. But understand this show is not meant to be used as a substitute for a relationship with a licensed mental health professional. Enjoy the show, y'all. Yo. Welcome everyone to another dope episode of Chill Will Radio, man. I wasn't here last week, but feels good to be here this week, man. Last week I had some business to take care of, man. And I was thinking a little bit before the show that, with all of this coronavirus thing going on and everybody's kind of staying in the house, certain people aren't working, certain people are working. I work in 2 fields that are particularly, I work in 2 fields that are considered essential activities. One would be this thing right here. I'm able to get up and do this every Sunday. So my peers here on the Good News station, but also me being a social worker. So my schedule hasn't really changed pretty much at all, right? My schedule hasn't really changed pretty much at all. So I just had to take a quick second in my car to just at least be fortunate of the fact that I'm not really going to be suffering financially, right, when it comes to bills and when it comes to a lot of things, because I know some friends who have gotten laid off. I've seen a lot of memes in which, this whole $1,200 stimulus thing isn't going to matter for people, specifically folks who live in LA, because rent costs too damn much. But, I have some friends who are just at home not doing nothing, and even though they're at home and they're still employed, their job isn't giving them any type of payment at all. Like I said, I had some friends who have gotten laid off. So if you're that individual who is still working, who is considered an essential worker, or your job is an essential activity, man, just be grateful for that you've been able to land a job within the right field, right? Social work and therapy and mental health and all that stuff it's a recession-proof job. It's something that's always going to be there. It's something that's always going to be needed, right? So like doctors, same as nursing, pretty much anything within a health, field. Any type of real helping profession is pretty much always going to be needed. So I had to take a quick second to just be thankful of that. However, and this is a conversation that I've had with a lot of my peers, and it kind of goes into the whole conspiracy theory type of main mind frame that I have sometimes, because certain things just don't add up. But I've been working a lot. However, I've been getting canceled a lot at my job, right? Because hospitals are empty, right? On the news and everywhere else, hospitals are full, but not at the few hospitals that I know of, right? Not at the 2 hospitals that I work at, not at certain hospitals that I have friends work at. Matter of fact, not even at this one hospital in New York that I have another friend work at, right? Hospitals are not full. So, for the past 2 weekends, I haven't been working. Yeah, last weekend I picked up work at another job, but for the past 2 weekends I've been canceled at my main job. That's up the street from the studio, strictly because the census in the hospital has been kind of empty. Normally, on a normal day, it would be about 150 patients within that hospital. Now it's probably 40, 50, 60 on a good day, right? It could be a few reasons. It could be one, they're not taking patients solely because they're not just admitting patients for the heck of it, right? I'm not finna just admit you just because you have a headache. or just because you have, minor pain somewhere, I'm not going to admit you just because of that. Or I could be, as a hospital administrator, we need to prepare for the influx of patients that may possibly come in with this coronavirus. So we're going to clear whole floors. Right now they have 2 specific floors dedicated towards it, but one specific floor is all the way empty. So it's when it comes to this whole situation and everything that's going on now, my particular kind of spiel towards it is let's just see where it goes. Obviously take the precautions that they're telling you to take, right? Wash your hands. Don't pretty much touch anything, cover your face and wear the gloves. Do the things that make you feel safe at the end of the day. Do the things that make you feel safe, right? Because I take this a little bit lightly, right? I take this a little bit lightly solely because the things that I read is not the things that I see, right? I work with some COVID patients, right? I've worked with patients and I've came in contact with certain patients who've had the coronavirus. Those exact patients aren't in a hospital no more because they've recovered from it, right? So I've came in contact with people who have had this virus, but those people have also recovered from it. So a lot of times we're speaking about the deaths and the ratio to dying when it comes to certain situations, but we're also not speaking about the amount of people that are recovering. The only people here that has recovered from it was Kevin Durant, the other guy from the Jazz, like ball players, right? We're not speaking about the typical everyday person that has recovered from it. And I think that's something that a lot of people should be extremely more mindful of, right? Do the things that make you feel comfortable. So if staying in a house all day makes you feel comfortable, cool. If wearing the mask while you're sitting by yourself in your car makes you feel comfortable, cool. If wearing the gloves makes you feel comfortable, cool. Do what makes you feel comfortable. Do what makes you feel safe. But also don't 100% believe everything you read, because just as certain people are dying, there are way more people being recovered. Just like certain people are dying from the flu, there are way more people recovering from the flu. Just as certain people are dying from, HIV and AIDS, there are still people out here having sex without condoms, So do what makes you feel comfortable, and don't allow this situation to kind of scare you and put you in a box to where you're shunning other people just because they choose not to wear a mask, or just because they choose not to wear gloves. Don't push them off to the side, because I see that happening a lot with this whole social distancing thing and don't come near me, and there's a lot of rudeness that is going around this, right? There's a lot of get away from me, and I'm sticking my hands out, and I don't want to give you no fist bump. I'm finna hit you on my shoulder or things like that. Or when it comes to these individuals who are in the hospital and they do have this coronavirus, right? They're in the room thinking that they're about to die. They're in the room thinking this is it. They're in the room scared, but they're also in the room. They're also a specific population that I can see become stigmatized, right? I can see once this over, though, that individual who was diagnosed with COVID-19, their friends or their family or someone else is going to be like, nah, you had the virus, so I ain't fucking with you, right? I can also see how that population is going to be stigmatized, So it's a lot of things in a lot of ways that this can kind of turn out. But don't allow this to scare you. Don't allow this to cause you to get into a frantic and very anxious mood. I think I read it earlier this morning. It was someone in Italy, 2 people in Italy. One person in Italy, one nurse in Italy committed suicide because of the stress from working. She was a nurse. She committed suicide because of the stress of working during this whole pandemic, but also she said she came in contact with someone who had the coronavirus. And you as a nurse, you're going to come in contact with those people, but she was scared to give it to someone else, so she committed suicide. But there's also an individual who committed suicide because he couldn't take quarantining too much, right? The whole self-quarantine and staying inside the house was just too much for that individual to kind of deal with. And I see this a lot, especially at my job at the psychiatric hospital. A lot of children, a lot of adults who have already had some type of psychotic disorder who were already very, very paranoid, now their paranoia and anxiety is on a 10, right? I think a lot of the times that population of individuals who this virus is kind of attacking worse is those people who are already diagnosed with something, or those people who are already, dealing with some type of debilitating mental illness, right? Because now their anxiety is on 1,000, their paranoia is on 1,000, their psychosis and everything is on 1,000, right? Those individuals who have OCD, right? All of that stuff is on 1,000 now, right? And this is something that has the potential. This is something that has the potential to shake up the world. Obviously, it's already doing financially and things like that, but even more so, be mindful of your own particular meter. Be mindful of your own level of anxiety and your own energy and where it's at, right? Be mindful to cut this off if you don't feel like listening to it all the time. If you don't feel like hearing about the coronavirus, cut it off. Stop. If you don't feel like dealing with certain people who talk about it a lot, you don't have to. But at the same token, don't let the news and the media control your mindset, your train of thought, and where it's at. Because I guarantee you, what's going on in certain hospitals isn't as bad as what's to make it seem. Is there going to be an influx of people who, have this and things of those sorts? Possibly, But there's always going to be more people turning out on top of this than there will be people dying, right? So, moving on forward into the self-care piece, right? So the one self-care piece that I have today actually goes pretty well with this whole self-quarantine thing and staying inside of the house thing. I'm a big proponent of going outside. And obviously within this particular situation, it's kind of difficult to go outside, right? Well, it's not really difficult, but you have people make you feel bad for going outside, make you feel bad for getting some sun and going outside of the house as if this virus is like an airborne thing, as if, if you go outside, you're automatically going to get it. But it's not the case. It's very, very hard to avoid it. Now, that's not to say just go ahead and go outside and go get it. But what I'm saying is don't allow yourself to suffer by staying inside, right? So the one self-care piece I want everyone to implement within their self-care regimen, especially during this time, is to go eat lunch outside, or go have a meal outside, go sit in your grass, go sit on your balcony, go sit on your porch. If you work, go sit outside on the bench, go do something. Just go have a meal outside, right? I was having a conversation with a young lady earlier today, and we were speaking about this, and she made a valid point. She said something to the extent of she feels wrong for getting some sunlight, right? It's bad when you step outside and you feel wrong for getting some type of sunlight. We shouldn't be stuck in a house. We shouldn't have to feel trapped. And the one thing that a lot of us desperately need, especially those individuals who are kind of depressed, we need the sun. Sitting outside and eating lunch is a very, very, very powerful thing. It's a very, very relaxing and peaceful thing, right? Especially if you're in a place to which you need to lower your anxiety. You need to lower, some of the things that are coming at you. You need to get away from certain triggers. Go eat lunch outside. Go sit in the grass. Just go lay down and just feel the sun hitting you. It's so peaceful, so quiet, and it leads into so many other things that we may need, right? So one of the self-care pieces I want everyone to implement within this particular time, especially within this particular time, right? Do it as often as you can. Do it as often as you can. But especially within this particular time, do it. Go eat lunch outside. All right? So moving on forward into the main topic, right? One of the things that I come across a whole lot, especially at work. Are things called, cognitive distortions, or I like to call them thinking traps, right? So what a cognitive distortion basically is, on a simplified version, are thoughts that will cause you to think that something is true when it's completely not, right? Thoughts that will cause you to think that something is true when it is completely the opposite, when it is completely not, right? And thinking traps are those things that will cause us to go down this rabbit hole, cause us to jump off this ledge when it comes to these negative thoughts. when it comes to getting back into our depression, when it comes to getting angry, when it comes to people taking things personal, when it comes to a lot of the things, right? There are these thinking traps that we kind of unconsciously and habitually set up in our own mind, and we go through and we think about every day, right? And sometimes these things happen just naturally out of habit, and we're not even aware of them, right? So for this particular episode, I'm going to be going through some of the thinking traps that I come across a lot when it comes to my conversations with people, when it comes to my conversations at work with some of my clients and some of my patients, those individuals. I'm going to be coming up with a few of them. You know, we're going to be discussing them here, right? One of the first ones that come across all the time, one of the first type of thinking traps is black and white thinking, right? It's either this or that. It's either a yes or no. There's nothing in the middle, right? And a lot of the times we already know what's wrong with that type of thinking. When it's either a yes or a no, it's going to allow us to be firm on something when it's reality not, right? And we refuse to budge on whatever it is. Typically, what's going to happen is when we have these cognitive distortions, right? Typically, we're always going to choose a side that is going against what we actually want, right? So if I believe my man Didier did something wrong to me and it was kind of just a mistake, you know, or if he didn't and I may have jumped the gun a little bit, I'm automatically going to go straight to the like, you fucked up. Nope, I don't care what you say, you fucked up. Oh, well, you should never did this, you fucked up. I'm not going to give him the ability to kind of explain his part. I'm not going to listen to him. I'm not going to take into account anything that may have popped up. You know, he came late to the studio because of traffic. Oh, well, you shouldn't have been late. Nope. Right? And when it comes to the black and white thinking, one of the things that we have to understand, and one of the things that we have to begin to try to do, we have to start asking ourselves questions, right? Why am I so firm on this? Could it have happened a different way? If it had happened a different way, what would the result may be, right? What could possibly happen? You know, what could possibly happen if it did happen a different way? Right? So black and white thinking is one of those common, you know, thinking traps that a lot of us have because it's a yes or a no. It's a good or a bad. It's a right or a wrong. When sometimes it's just a, I don't know. When sometimes it's just a maybe. When sometimes it's just something that is in the middle, you know, and we need to be able to be open to it, right? People who have black and white thinking, they're closed off to a lot of situations. They don't want to hear nothing. And a lot of the times we have to be open. And this is just kind of what a lot of these thinking traps that I'm going to go over, right? We have to be open to a lot of things because maybe it's not right. And that's what a cognitive distortion is, right? It's faulty thinking, right? It's faulty thinking that's going to cause us to think that something is wrong. It's cause us to think that something is harmful when in reality, it's not. All right. Also, the overgeneralization of certain stuff, right? So what we do is we focus on one specific incident. Right? We focus on one specific incident, one negative incident that happened to us. So let's say, for example, this is a common thing that I hear a lot, and I've actually seen it, you know, on Instagram earlier today from a post of my friend. But, you know, I'm in a relationship with a black woman, and this black woman is loud, and this black woman is angry, and this black woman, you know, is aggressive. Now, all black women are this way because of this one, you know, negative relationship that I've had, this one kind of abusive relationship that I've had. I'm going to point all black women to be the same, you know, or my relationship with my father or my mother or my girlfriend or whoever. My negative relationship with this one person is going to describe the relationship I have with everyone, right? We allow one incident to dictate everything that goes on in our life. And because this happens, we block ourselves from experiencing certain things. Because we paint the picture of everything negative, we're blocking ourselves from experiencing something positive, right? We put up this wall, and I spoke about this before on the show, the difference between walls and boundaries. Boundaries are things that, you know, it's a fence that is up and allows things to come in, but allows certain things to go out. But when it comes to the wall that we're putting up, especially when it comes to this overgeneralization of things, is that we don't allow certain people to come in, but we also don't allow our own personal feelings of that situation to get out, right? So in order to get over or get through this overgeneralization of things that happen in our life, we have to understand that one incident with that one person is just one incident with that one person, and that everybody in every situation is different and every situation is brand new. If we begin to block something out, like I stated earlier, we're always going to come up short. We're always going to come up short, and it's never fair. Another thinking trap that I always come over, right, it's just this whole concept of people who are know-it-alls, right? And when it comes to the people who are know-it-alls, those individuals who always thinks that things are going to be bad anyway, right? No matter what I do, it's going to turn to shit. Because that person is used to negative things happening to them, or because that person believes that every negative thing is always going to happen to them. Every situation that I come across, or every person that come into my life, or everything that I try to do, it's going to be a failure, right? And that type of thinking pattern can kind of be created, or could start from when you were a child or when you were an adult, and life just begins to start smack you in the face over and over and over and over and over again. So you believe that everything that's negative is going to happen to you, and you believe that you are worth every bit of that negativity that is going on within your life, right? We pinpoint every single negative thing, when in reality, it might just be one situation, right? It might just be one situation that might be negative, right? And that's kind of a segue into the next, thinking trap, right? Thinking trap is this whole concept of filtering stuff, right? We see one negative thing and we focus on that without being mindful of all of the positive stuff that's around it, right? So an example of it would be if I'm giving a presentation in class and I see this one person in class falling asleep or looking bored, without being mindful of the 30 other people in class who are very excited and interactive and entertained and engaged with my presentation. I focus on the one thing. And the one thing that happens with that situation, or one thing that I believe causes us to tune in and to focus on that, is that we look for it, right? Sometimes we look for those negative things. We unconsciously look for those negative things. We unconsciously work towards that negative situation. Same with the people who have this concept that everything bad is going to happen to them. They're unconsciously working towards the negative. When we focus on that, you're going to work towards the negative because that is what you're seeking. Nobody's going to say, hey, I'm just looking for the negative things. But the thoughts that you're constantly thinking is going to lead to behavior, and that behavior is going to be your action, and your action is kind of setting you up for failure. And if your actions is setting yourself up for failure, it's not going to do nothing but reassure, and strengthen that negative mindset that you do have. So when it comes to this filtering thinking trap that a lot of us have, sometimes we have to take a step back and just look at it from a wider lens instead of focusing on one particular thing, right? And sometimes it is hard because it's our anxiety telling us to focus on that one person, telling us to be mindful of that one thing that's trying to make us feel like what we're doing isn't bad, because we already think that it's not bad. That it is bad. We already think that we're giving a poor presentation. I already think that I'm a negative person. I already think that what I'm doing is no good. So when I come across that person that is appearing as such, that is appearing as if he is aligning with my own thoughts of myself, of how I'm already feeling, we're going to attach ourselves to that, and it's going to be like, well, I guess I was right. I guess I ain't shit. I guess what I'm doing don't mean anything, because we begin to focus on that, right? One more thing that I see all the time is this whole aspect of control fallacy, right? I like to call it control fallacy, but a fallacy is nothing more but a mistaken belief, right? A belief that technically isn't true, right? And the control aspect of it deals with our control around it. So it's two sides to it, right? It's the external controlling of it, right? And the internal control of it, right? So when it comes to the external control of it, right, we blame everything else. We're externally controlled by everything. So our life is shit because everything around us makes our life shit, right? I am at work. I come to work late every single day because of the traffic. Meanwhile, especially within these times right now, ain't no traffic. But you're still blaming yourself you're still blaming traffic for your reason for being late to work, without taking a step back and thinking that maybe I shouldn't have sat in that bed for an extra 30, 40 minutes when you knew you were supposed to get up. Right? So one part of this control fallacy type of thinking trap is being externally controlled by a bunch of forces that is going to cause us to have negative results, or cause us to behave in a negative way, or cause negative things to happen to us. We are not going to take the blame, or we are not going to be accountable for everything. I am not going to be accountable for coming to work. I am not going to be accountable for preparing for the show. I am not going to be accountable for, a lot of the negative things that are happening within my life, because it ain't my fault. But on the other end, you are on the other end, the other side of the being externally controlled. We have the being internally controlled, right? Internally in control. And what I mean by that is, if Didier came in this room and Didier looked mad or looked angry or something, first thing that I'm going to think isn't, hey, Didier, what's going on? First thing I'm going to think is, hey, what did I do? Right? When we're internally controlled by this fallacy, or by this control factor, by this control fallacy, or by this thinking trap, we begin to believe that everything that is happening is our fault, right? Everything that is happening to someone else is my fault. I have a part to play in someone else's wrongdoing or in someone else's pain. The world revolves around you, right? And we all know certain people to where the world evolves around them. And if, something is wrong with me, they automatically think they did something. They automatically think they had a part to play within that particular situation. When in reality, it's never the case, right? So when it comes to individuals who are internally controlled by this control fallacy, right? They believe everything that is happening to someone else is their fault. But when it comes to the external part of it, they place the blame on everything else without being accountable, right? So one of the ways to kind of get through this, just like everything else that I've stated, we have to take a step back. We have to take a step back and just look at the thing as a whole. Look at the negative thing as a whole. But when it comes to any type of thinking trap, when it comes to any type of cognitive distortion, a lot of it revolves around your mindset, and a lot of it revolves around your mindset, and a lot of it revolves around, how much energy you're giving towards these negative thoughts. I always tell people, especially children, especially teenagers and adolescents, when it comes to, I'm trying to not think negative, I'm trying to get out of this negative thinking pattern. It's never about shutting off that negativity or that negative voice in your head, because you're not going to be able to cut it off. You may just have that may just be your first thought. It's never about that, but it's about turning down the volume, right? So the way you turn down the volume is just by throwing more positive things in it. And when you throw more positive things in it, that negative side or those negative thoughts don't appear as loud. And that's this. And on the other end, it goes to the mindset. Look at how negative that you are thinking. Start to question your own thoughts. Start to ask yourself why you're thinking this. Start to be mindful how often you're thinking this. Start to ask yourself, is it really about you? Start to ask yourself, if I was not here, would this situation really happen? Start to ask yourself, is this really that important? We have to question those thoughts. And a lot of us don't get in the habit of questioning our own thoughts, because a lot of our thoughts aren't real. A lot of our thoughts aren't even our thoughts. A lot of the times those are other people putting their own personal opinions on us. And because we either hold that person to a certain level, or because we hear that one thing so often, we begin to believe it, right? If someone that I truly care about tells me that I ain't shit, hey, I'm just going to believe I'm not shit. But if some random person said that, hey, you just some random person, so it don't matter. Or if I begin to hear it all the time by a bunch of random people, then I may begin to believe it. But we also have to understand that is their thoughts, right? We have to get out of the habit of allowing that other person's thoughts to control our mindset, right? So be mindful of these few thinking patterns, right? The black and white thinking, right? It's either this or that. The overgeneralization type of thinking, right? I'm allowing one incident to dictate how I feel about everything, right? Also be mindful of this know-it-all type of behavior, right? No matter what happens, things are going to be negative. No matter what I do, I know for a fact that things are going to be negative, right? Also be mindful of this filtering type of thinking trap, or this filtering type of thinking pattern, right? I'm going to pinpoint one negative thing without being mindful of all of the positive stuff that is around it. And also be mindful of this last thinking trap, which is a control fallacy, right? If when it comes to two parts to it, the external control of it and the internal control of it. External means that when negative things happen, you don't take accountability for it, right? You're not being accountable for your part to play in it. Things are controlling you to be negative. When it comes to the internal side of it, right? You're thinking and you're feeling as if everything that is happening to everyone else is your fault. All right? So, moving on forward into the last question, or the question I leave for everyone else. Simple question within these particular times, right? Especially when it comes to these negative thinking traps that we're speaking about, and especially when it comes to this whole madness that's going on right now, right? How are you allowing your thoughts to control your behavior right now? How are you allowing your thoughts to control your behavior right now, in relation to everything that's going on in the world right now? How are you allowing your thoughts to control your behavior right now in relation to everything that is going on in the world right now? All right? So, thank you, y'all. I hope everyone is doing good, man. I hope everyone does fine. I have a group of people on my phone I need to check up in on and see how they're doing. Because we don't really know how another person is doing within certain situations. And this particular pandemic and madness affects everyone different. Because I work in the field and because I see it every day, I don't take it as serious. But there are certain people who do. So hit people up, check up on folks, see how people are doing, especially those individuals who you know aren't able to work right now. Or or even if you think that they possibly have been laid off or they're not able to work. See what's going on with them. Check up on them. All right? So, thanks. Good looking. And as always understand, ain't no wealth without your mental health. So please stay blessed and take care of yourself. Be great, y'all. Peace.